Thank you all for being here. Without any further ado, we're going to begin a little introduction to Nefesh HaChaim. And just in order to understand a little bit what this is about and why is this so important, and on a personal level, how I got to read this sefer and have a life-changing experience. We live in a world where I believe there's an identity crisis that is tremendous on all levels for all people. And although Baruch Hashem we have a Derech HaTorah, and I believe the people who are going to be joining for this class are people who are observant, who try to adhere with the code and the laws of the Torah. But many times in the equation between what we do in the Torah, doing the mitzvot, even doing chesed, being a nice person, etc., many times there are two elements that are missing. And between you and me, those elements are the most important elements. The first one is who the player is. And the second one is who the second player is. What I mean to say is the following. I need to know, first and foremost, who I am. If I don't know who I am, it's very difficult to play a role that makes any sense in any part of life. Be it professional, be it as a spouse, be it, you need to know who you are. It sounds like big words, but it's truly important. I gave a shiur on this, not on Nefesh HaChaim. Nefesh HaChaim I gave many times shiur, but I gave a shiur on identity crisis. It was before Yom Kippur. I don't know if you remember, for the ones who attended, it was in the house of Moshe Levi and Tila Falik. And when I gave this shiur, I said that basically many times before Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, you start thinking, and why is it that every time I keep on repeating myself? What I spoke about doing Teshuvah last year, the next year I'm still talking about the same thing. That's a little sad, but many times it happens. And we did some analysis together, and we came to a conclusion that the most important piece of the puzzle was missing. And you know what that is? That's myself. The scientists tell us that at the age of 35, 97% of what you're going to make as a decision could be predicted based on where you come from, who your parents were, who you married to, what you studied, etc., etc., etc. And the more you advance, and the less you could find yourself. Because there are so many influences in our lives, be it what I see, what I hear, what I breathe, who I hang out with, who's my spouse, where I come from, etc., that are all going to have tremendous influence on my decision making. And if somebody would be smart enough to be able to analyze all these elements, these ingredients of the composition, it would be able to predict almost what we're going to do. At 97%, I would tell you it's a bad number. It means I could only be myself for 3%. Well, obviously, when I say Yashavnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, and I'm sorry, I'm never going to do it again, the all, powerful up there, the Almighty is like, okay, it sounds good, but I already know that 97% can be predicted already. You're not really yourself. And all we have to do is to go much deeper. And that's what we did before. And people try to understand a little bit of meditation, going deeper and deeper and deeper into oneself to discover who I am. If I know who I am and who I could be, so then that means that the first element in a relationship is taken care of. Very, very important. I'll come back to this in a minute. The second player in this game, quote unquote, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the same question that I said before, who am I would have the question, who is he? And if I don't know who he is, how can I serve him? Very difficult. I need to know who he is. Well, let me introduce you to one of the most magnificent, life-changing books that exist in our religion. It's called Nefesh HaChaim. Nefesh HaChaim, the soul of the living. The soul of the living will understand deeper into the book why he called that book the Nefesh HaChaim. But Nefesh HaChaim has 4 gates or 4 chalakim to it. The first gate is, who am I? I'm going to skip to the third gate is, who is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That third gate is the deepest and the most complicated one. The second gate is Tefillah. What exactly is Tefillah? And the fourth gate is Torah. A complex book, a mix of mysticism and logic and philosophy. If you ask me on what category would I put the book, you know, you go on Sefaria, for example, and they tell you the category. You have Halacha category, Talmud category, Mishnah category, Musar category, Kabbalah category. I don't know in which one to look. I don't know if it's in the Kabbalah, if it's in the Musar. I'm not kidding you, by the way. When I look on Sefaria, for example, I don't look from the middle. I look in the top where they put you search, and there I put Nefesh Achai because I have no idea in which one. Sometimes I look, I can't find it. You know why? Because it's a mix of so many things. It's not a Musar book. Whoever says it's a Musar book, they didn't learn it. It's not Musar, it's life. I did a challenge with kids. I'm talking maybe 15, 16 years ago. I was a youth rabbi in a youth minyan in Mexico City. And I decided to introduce this sefer to 15-year-old kids. Because I said, this is life. It teaches you where you come from, who you are. This is so deeply important. And Be'ezrat Hashem, it takes time. It's a big sefer, but we have to go slowly, slowly. I sent the link of Sefaria in the messages, so you could check your messages in the Zoom, or go on Sefaria and type on the search Nefesh Achai. You will find it. So to follow the text. There's another little introduction I would like to make. The Nefesh Achai is written by Rav Chaim Mivorozhin. Rav Chaim Mivorozhin was the primary or the biggest student of the Gaon Mivilna. As you all know, the Gaon Mivilna was very opposed to the Hasidic movement when it started. I'm not going to go into that because it's irrelevant to this class. But there was different ideas. It was a new trend. It was a new idea in Judaism that the Hasidic movement started. And people believed that the Nefesh Achai was written as a critic of the Hasidic movement. I would like to tell you that I disagree. After learning the Nefesh Achai over 10 times, I could tell you that it's not a critic of Hasidic movement. There are some elements in the book that have differences, but if you study the Sefer HaTanya and the Sefer of Nefesh Achai, they're extremely similar, strikingly similar. And there are some minor differences. But it's like when the people tell you, Shammai and Hillel disagreed on everything. Oh, really? Well, let me tell you something. Masechet Shabbat said that there was only 3 times that Shammai and Hillel people disagreed with one another. And the decrees between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel that differed are only 18. And then there are many discussions that come from that, which means that in the core of the Torah, in the core element of the Torah, Hillel and Shammai, they agreed with one another on 99.9%, but the differences that they had were in some details. It doesn't make Hillel and Shammai, chas v'shalom, enemies or people who couldn't stand one another. No, chas v'shalom. It says in the Gemara Nibamot, that the people of Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, they used to marry one another, although they had many differences in halakha when it came to matrimonial halachot. And therefore, the Nefesh Achai, some people say, oh yes, the Nefesh Achai, it's the book for the, for the ones who are not Hasidic, and the Hasidic people have that version in Sefer HaTanya. I strongly encourage all to study both books, because both books are incredibly rich and deep, and they have differences. Anyways, the last thing I want to say is that the revolution that Rav Chaim Volozhin did was very, very special. You have to understand that Volozhin is known also to be the first yeshiva that, similar to the yeshiva we have today, although it must have been different in many ways. But the yeshiva of Volozhin is like what they call it, the mother of the Lithuanian yeshivot. In the Lithuanian world, Kabbalah finds very small space. Mysticism is not the big forte. For that, you would have to go to the Hasidic world, to the Sephardic world, to the Mikubal world, but you don't find it by Lithuanians. the Gaon Mivilna was truly the first one to revolutionize the world by introducing concepts of mysticism in the Lithuanian world. And the Nefesh HaChaim, I think, put it in the Sefer that was written and then finished, composed, and printed by his son, Rabbi Koskas. But this was a revolution, because when you hear a Lithuanian learning Kabbalah, it's like, he's learning the wrong science here, you know. And here the Gaon Mivilna and the Nefesh HaChaim both introduced this concept in a world that was not otherwise exposed to it. And therefore, without any further ado, I would like to start learning the Sefer. I strongly encourage everyone to get the text. Again, you could find it either on the messages that I sent. I'm going to read from my book, but you could find it on sefaria.org, where they have the Nefesh HaChaim. Just type Nefesh HaChaim, will come up. It's the first chapter of the first Shad, the first gate. So, throughout the first gate, the Nefesh HaChaim is going to introduce a new concept, again, going back on who we are. And as any rabbi would do, whenever you have a question on something, you go to the earliest source you could find in the Torah. And if I ask you who we are, who is the human being, what's the purpose of life, you would probably search at the very beginning in the creation of Adam. Please accompany me in reading the Sha'ar Aleph, Perek Aleph. It says the Nefesh HaChaim Ketiv, Vayivra Elohim et Adam betzalmo, Betzelem Elokim bara oto. Hashem created man to his image. To the image of God, he created him. V'chen ketiv, ki betzelem Elokim asa et Adam. Here, several times, the concept of Tzelem Elokim, very known concept, which means literally the image of God, is quoted in Bereshit from the very beginning, in the first Perek, and later. Rabotai, it's translated as the image of God, but obviously, I'm sure I could read your mind right now. How could you find an image of something that has no image? So if I tell you the image of something, you're going to look for that something. So, okay, so the image is the imitation of that thing. You know, I always give the same example because I learned violin from very, very young. And when you start learning violin, there's one word that you learn. It's called the Stradivarius. The Stradivarius is the most expensive violins that you could find in the market. When I say expensive, they range between $4 and $10 million. That's what I call expensive, okay? So for the ones who are uninitiated in the world of violins, nobody owns a Stradivarius. Banks own Stradivarius. They lend them to Isaac Perlman. I saw Isaac Stern playing with the violin. I saw many, many great violinists playing with the Stradivarius. They have a special sound. There's some great research done on this, that they believe it was maybe, all right, it's some speculation that maybe it was a secret recipe how to make this wood. They would soak the wood in certain liquids for tens of years, if not over 100 years, on certain liquids and certain expertise to make these crazy violins. I heard the sound. Without a mic, you could hear it like a mile away. It's crazy. I'm exaggerating, and not a mile, but I'm sorry, in a big room, you could really, it's a special thing. And they say maybe it came from the Beit HaMikdash. I once saw a fascinating article on this in one of the magazines. I don't remember which one. But coming back here, I own a violin. It was created in 1900, so it's 120 years old. It's worth quite a bit of money, but it says there inside the violin, copy of Stradivarius. It's worth probably $25,000. Okay, when you compare with $4 or $5 or $6 million, you know, it doesn't compare. But you have a point of comparison. You look at that one, the person who made it was looking at that one, tried to imitate it the best, and they made very, very good violins, copies of Stradivarius. When Lexus makes their cars, it's clear to all. They look at Mercedes, they copy, they do something a little different, and they try to make a better job. When Samsung makes phones, they look at Apple, they try to beat them. There's always a point of comparison. How could you call me Tselem Elokim when the basis of our religion is that there is no image to God? But yet you call me a Tselem, an image of God? Now we're going to see that, we're not going to see here, but that's why I'm here to give a little bit my 2 cents here. There are halachot based on this. There's a Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, for example, that says you cannot hang the corpse of somebody who died. It says that somebody who is murdered by the Bedin, they have to show that person after he's dead. Thing that parenthesis probably never happened or happened maybe once in history. It's almost impossible to put someone to death in Jewish religion, by the way, just to be clear. Mamash, if you go through the halachot in Masechet Sanhedrin, you really have to want to die to make it to die. I mean, it's impossible. Just to give an example, you have to do the isur in the second warning of the 2 edim within 2 seconds of the second warning. If you waited 3 seconds, you're off the hook. And so really you want to, it's a way to have a kosher suicide, you know. You make it in front of the edim, and now, you know, you check all the boxes, and you know, the guy makes it to be killed. But at the end of this, theoretically, at the end they would take the corpse of the person and would show it to the people. It says in the Gemara, Lo talim nivlato ala etz. In the Torah it says you cannot leave this person to show. It says, you have to show to the people that's consequences to your bad actions. But don't leave this person there. Why? Because the person who was created to the image of God. Now we're talking about something physical. The Midrash, when he brings this halacha, the Midrash says, Mashal, to 2 twins, right? That one of them was the king and one of them was the Rasha. Says the Midrash, people are going to pass by, they're going to look at the twin who was the Rasha, and they're going to say, oh, here's the king. So therefore the king says, don't put my brother up, nobody should see, because if not, they're going to confuse with me. So there's a strong evidence that the tselem is not just a little comparison, it's almost physical. There are halachot that come from that. That you cannot put someone dead because people are going to see it and say, oh, God. Well, so when you see a human being, you see God. But the problem is that it doesn't work like this. By the way, the sculpture of a human being is asur. The sculpture of something else is not. Why? Lo ta'asun oti, lo ta'asun iti. Don't make me. Tselem Elokim, Rabotai. It's even in halachot. Now, Nefesh is not going to go there. I'm just telling you the Tselem Elokim concept is very complicated. And look in the words, it says it, Hine, Omek penimiyut inyan atzelem. The depth of the inside concept of the inyan, of the concept of tselem, of image or imagery, of photo, or whatever you want to call it. It says, don't think it's something very simple. ומדברים העומדים ברומו של עולם. I don't know how you translate this, but it means it's from things that are עומדים ברומו של עולם to the highest level of depth of the Torah. It's not an easy concept to understand. It's not the easy thing to grasp. Tselem Elokim. I just gave you 2-3 examples here. You talk about the face of a human being. You're comparing this with God? But we know God has no face. There's a discussion in the Poskim on that, in the Rishonim already. It's called the humanization of God. When God goes through, quote unquote, a phase of adaptation with the world, which we will discuss in Shar Gimel, called in the language of the Mekubalim, the Tzimtzum. He's making himself available for the world. How much did he make himself available to the world? How much did he have to lower himself to the world? How much did he have to make himself human for humans to be able to connect with him? Because that's the idea, the general idea of the Tzimtzum. And there are discussions there. Of course, the most accepted discussion, the most accepted position is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu never made himself an image. Some Rishonim, believe it or not, I don't want to take too much time on that. Some Rishonim believe that there could be a physical image to God in a certain sense. It's incredibly difficult. I think I shared it with you. I think Aiki Rudy, you remember that derasha I once gave Parashat Mishpatim 2 or 3 years ago. Why? Because there at the end of the parasha it says Vayir'u et ha'elohim. It says in the pasuk they saw God. And then v'tachat raglav k'ma'aseh livnat hasapid u'ch'etzem hashamayim latohar. Tachat raglav, under his feet they saw something. So those Rishonim say every time we talk about God we say, well, his finger doesn't mean his finger, his arm doesn't mean his arm, his face doesn't mean his face. But when you talk about something under his feet, I'm not talking about his feet, I'm talking about what's under his feet. So now what are you going to say? The under also was an imagery? This is a big discussion. But I think the battle was won by the Rishonim who said there's no such a thing as a physical representation of God. Although again, it's a discussion. There is one interesting shita that I would like to share with you. And I believe it was the Gaon Mivilna. I may be wrong on the source. It's been a long time I didn't hear it. But it has to do when you do tefillah. When you do tefillah, it's very abstract. You're praying to nothing. You don't see anything. It's not like in Avodah Zarah that you have, you have an idol, you have something physical in front of you. And when we talk about something, talking to God, what are you talking to? Now, we are humans. We're made out of flesh, out of time, out of space, and we need to connect with something of the same dimension. Very difficult to pray to, quote unquote, nothing. So how do you do that? There's a discussion in the poskim. Are you allowed to imagine while you are praying an image? I'm not praying Chas v'Shalom to an image. I'm not saying God is this, but for me to have seriousness, for example, if I imagine an old man, okay, or something that makes me, feel a feeling of seriousness, maybe a king, maybe something that I represent just for my tefillah to be able to feel the seriousness and the concentration that I need, am I allowed to picture that in my mind? Chas v'Shalom. I'm not picturing that on the paper. I'm not showing you, I'm praying to this. No, in my mind, just to have seriousness. It's a discussion in the post. But nobody talks about the real tzelem. The tzelem is me to Elokim. How do you make an image of something that is not tangible, is not physical, that you cannot see? And that's where the Nefesh HaChaim said this has a lot of depth and a lot of complication. Now, I wouldn't be able to say that claim, but for someone who knew Kol HaTorah Kula al Burio, he knew the whole Torah, and he says the following, Vehu kolel rov sitre penimiyut hazohar. This is where the majority of the depth of the Zohar goes. So after learning all the 3 halakim of the Zohar, you could say that majority of conversation goes towards that goal of understanding this complex concept of us being Tzelem Elokim. Now, this is fascinating and critically important because we're talking about us. If I understand who Hashem is and what my position is, I am the image of God. What is my position? How is that? When I was a little younger, you would have asked me, what is Tzelem Elokim? When you read the Psukim and you see the Mefashim, there are many different opinions how to understand because that's a Pasuk in Chumash. When you teach this to an audience or to yourself or to friends or to family or to kids, and you get to that point, what do you say? He created man to his image. How do you translate this? So I always understood when I was a little younger that meant there's a certain power that Hashem gave the man. Right? Hashem created the world. And at one point he said, you know what? I'm going to stop here and I'm going to share that talent with people. I want them to take over. There's a Rashi that indicates to this. Hashem said, Amar le'olamo dai. He said, that's it. You think HaKadosh Baruch Hu couldn't build the 4 seasons? He could have built the 4 seasons in Surfside on Collins Avenue between 90 and 92. He could have done that. He decided not to. He chose not to. Amar le'olam moda. He said, that's it. My mission is over, and I give over to who? I give permission to the people to build the world. They're going to use their brain, and they're going to be my partners in creation. That includes, for example, first and foremost, in bringing kids to the world. God could have created kids, many Adams and many Chavas, and many times without parents, but he chose not to. He just did the first couple, and he said, go ahead, take over, now it's your turn. Isn't that a godly thing? Isn't that a tselem Elokim? Imitating what God did? That's what would jump to my mind. You know, you could procreate the same way God created humans. You could create humans. The miracle of life. You give birth to a baby boy, to a baby girl. This is God-given powers. We don't realize. When you create, when you further the beauty of this world, you're a partner with God. You are exercising a little bit your tselem Elokim. And we could build a lot on this because this is also a fascinating idea, and it has a lot of responsibilities that play in our role. That means that Hashem gave us the bechira of choosing. He's not doing everything for us. At one point he says, you know what, that's it, I'm out. It's your responsibility, it's your work, it's your talent, it's your reward, it's your consequences. But unfortunately, the Nefesh HaChaim is going to prove me wrong completely. And that's not Tselem Elokim. That is God-given powers that was given to us, but Tselem Elokim is much deeper and much stronger than that. So let's continue reading. Obviously, if Tselem Elokim tells you it's one of the deepest things that the Zohar discusses, and not only in quantity, but also, not only in quality, but also in quantity. Most discussions of the Zohar point to that direction of having a clear definition of what Tselem Elokim is. You understand that it's not going to take 15 minutes to understand that. Just to be clear. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה מדברו. Omnam, כאן נדבר במילת צלם. He says, therefore, let's discuss the word tselem. Nefesh HaChaim is going to be very humble, always saying, what we're going to discuss is, simple pshat. Tselem means the image, to the likeness. בדרך הפשטנים הראשונים. Like the simple Rishonim, he refers to the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, al pasuk, נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו. I'm going to take a minute of your time on this. I'm going to translate this pasuk. נעשה אדם, let us make man, בצלמנו כדמותנו, to our image, to our liking. Who is speaking? Who is speaking? Who is נעשה? Plural. Plural? נעשה אדם בצלמנו? Who in the world is there with God? Isn't he alone? Yoshev Bashamayim is all alone? No. The pasuk tells you, Naaseh Adam, let us make men together. Who the heck is there with God? B'tzalmenu, to our image. Our image? So there's more than one there, right? There's several people there, and they have a little council on this. Okay, let's make men. Now, there are many midrashim that discuss who was there, what's the council. We don't pay enough attention to this because the secret is right there. I'm smiling because I know the answer. But it's going to take time to develop. There's more than one player there. Of course, there's more than one player. There's one God. But when you make man, it's a lot of complication what the tselem is. Plural. Tselem and dmut. What is tselem? What is dmut? The Nefesh HaChaim at this point is not going to talk about this yet. Towards the end of the Sha'ar Aleph, he's going to discuss the plural element. By the way, just for the fun of it, I just want to remind you one thing. Throughout the creation of man, and the creation of the world actually, the only name of God that is used is Elokim. We know that he has many names that indicate many different attributes. The only name used is Elokim. For instance, take the first pasuk. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Now, sure enough, the Pesukim that talk about the creation of man, there are no exception to the rule. What was the first pasuk we quoted? Vayivra Elohim et Adam betzalmo, betzelem Elohim bara oto. Ki betzelem Elohim asa et Adam. Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayhi or. Every time this creation of the world is through the name Elohim. Why dafka the name Elohim? That's going to be in Sha'ar Gimel. But on top of that, and I hope I don't make you too confused, I probably will, so too bad for you. But the name Elohim, if you know any Hebrew, is plural. Oops. Because if it would be singular, it would be Eloah, which we do use. Eloah. But Elohim, Anashim is plural of Ish. Elohim is plural of Eloah. Oh. Why is it plural? Do we need to start the Torah for the first chapter and several chapters with the name Elohim? Plural? Naaseh Adam B'Tzalmenu? What is that? It will get elucidated throughout the learning of this Sefer. Because obviously, if we want to find out who I am, as we said at the beginning, you have two major players, me and God. But if I tell you, who are you? Oh, you're the image of God. Oh, shoot, so I have to go to God now. Because if I want to understand who I am, and you tell me I'm the image of God, I mean, if I don't know who God is, then how can I know who I am? Because I'm only the image. I mean, only the image. The only is not a good word because it's a tremendous responsibility to be the image of God. But here you have some key elements that make things complicated. Plural. Naaseh Adam. Tselem. Dmut. Let's continue the text. Vehu. Kimilat tselem udmut kan. Well, first of all, obviously, although halachically, as we said, there are many halachot that come from this, that the image of the face of a person is holy. You cannot make an image, a sculpture of a human being, because it is the image of God. So there is a halachic component to this, or it could be that it's the closest thing that we can find, but it's definitely not physical. God is not a physical thing that I tell you, you're the image of God, so it has to do with physical. Make no mistake, God has no nose, God has no eyes, God has no mouth. And whenever they tell you about the kol, when they heard a voice, it's not the voice of God. It's a voice that God creates. When God sees, it's not through eyes, it's something else. So Tselem Udmut says Nefesh HaChaim, make no mistake. Eno kemashmao, it's not like the simple reading, simple translation. Ki katuv meforash, because there's already another pasuk that tells you and indicates that clearly we're not talking about something physical, as it says in Yeshaya, I quote, "Uma demut ta'archulo." What kind of image can you identify with them? There is no such a thing. Ela perusho dimion ma be'eze davar is a comparative word. When you compare two things, you could call it an image. For example, you could say that Samsung copies Apple. I don't know. Don't get upset with me because if you're a Samsung Hasid, you're going to be upset at me. Fine. Apple follows Samsung. Whatever way you want to do this, okay? Apple copies Samsung, Samsung copies Apple. If I tell you, Reuven copied Shimon, it could be that he copied his tie, it could be that he copied his car, and it could be that he copied his idea. It's also going to be the same word. He copied his idea. It doesn't have to be physical. It could be something else. It could be a reaction. It could be many things that you could call copy. So the image, the dumut, the tselem, doesn't have to be something physical. It could be something different. It could be a comparison. I'm comparing two people. I could say he's the image of the other one. or two ideas is also in the image of the other one. It doesn't have to be something physical. We compare the Klal Israel to the Ke'at Midbar, which is a bird. Now, Nefesh HaChaim says when you compare the Klal Israel to that bird called the Ke'at Midbar, well, you're clearly not talking about any physical comparison. We don't have wings. We don't have a beak. We did not resemble in a physical way. Don't search there. Of course, that's not the point. It was a comparative word. It was a comparison because the way we lived when we were in the desert, that we were going from place A to place B to place C, 42 different places. We looked very much like this bird that does not have a fixed dwelling. And therefore, David HaMelech in Tehillim comes and he compares us to that bird. Did he compare us physically to that bird? Of course not. He compared us to the situation where we were. It's very similar to the situation of this bird. In the words, this is a bird that goes from place to place, always moving around. This is a bird that goes from place to place, constantly from place to place. This is the simple interpretation of what the tselem is. I would say at this point, it has to do with the famous Ma'amar Chazal, that the same way God does certain things, so too you should. Right? Hashem says, you have to be nice, so you be nice. B'tselem Elokim, you imitate Hashem. The same way he does certain things. In your understanding of what God does, you should try to imitate the rabbi, you imitate the higher authority. So in this case, God is the Almighty, is doing so. That's the tselem. And not more than that. This is the pshat of the Rishonim. You have to try to play the role of the superior one, the one who is more responsible, the one who is on top, the adult in the room. And therefore, you should, that's probably what tselem Elokim means. That's the derech hapashtanim. So you have different ways how to see the tselem. Like I said before, maybe it's about having kids, about giving to the kids, having love to others, the many mitzvot that seem to be learned and maybe inspired from the fact that Hashem gave to the world without waiting for something in return. So too you could do that. Tselem could include that. There are many things that could be included in tselem. Therefore, the tselem could be that there is a comparison between one and the other. Now, obviously, you understand that that's not the depth of Tselem Elokim that we're going to study because of many things. We're going to start Perek Bet now, just for 3 minutes. Omnam lehavin inyan omro b'tselem Elokim daika v'lo shem acher. Again, there was a lot of different names that the Torah could have chosen just to tell you that you have to be similar to God. By the way, if it came to tell you that you have to be nice to others and you have to have a pity and mercy, then would you have picked Elokim as the name of comparison? I would probably have said, Tselem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. We know that Yud Kei Vav Kei is a term that is more rachamim, merciful, than Elokim. Why would it say Tselem Elokim out of all the words Ribono Shel Olam? Elokim, at least we were taught that it's a name of justice. So what does it mean? That you have to be as tough when it's necessary? That justice has to be made? I mean, it's certainly very important, but I don't think that's why you said B'Tselem Elokim. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, if it just came to tell you you have to be similar to God as much as you can, just to imitate his attributes, so then why Dafka Tselem Elokim v'lo Shem Acher? Why the image of Elokim and not another word? Ki Shem Elokim Yadua Perusho. Because the term Elokim, we know what it means. שהוא מורה שהוא יתברך שמו בעל הכוחות כולם. It shows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is בעל הכוחות כולם, which means he's almighty. He has all the powers of the world. By the way, that's a little bit the answer why it's plural. Elokim is plural because it refers to all the powers of the world. Of course, it's much deeper than that, but just on the outside to understand a little bit what it is. Ba'al hakochot kulam. He's the owner, he's the master of all powers. There in the tool, and I will end with this for today, in the tool, it just tells us that when you say any beracha, you're supposed to have kavanah in when you say yud ke vav ke and when you say elokim. So you say beracha, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Hashem, you have to think, Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh. He was, he is, and he will be. And then Elokeinu, Ba'al hakochot kulam, Ba'al hayecholet. He's the one who has all powers. So this has halacha in it. When you say he's B'Tselem Elokim, and now it gets a little more touchy. Tselem Elokim means that he's the image of that word, of that term Elokim. I have 1,000 words I could use. I could use Shalom, I could use Shaddai, I could use Tzevakot, I could use Rachamim, I could use whatever I want. Out of all the names of God, I picked Elokim Davka. Tselem Elokim, the image of Elokim. Elokim means the one who has all powers. Does it mean that I have all powers? Well, we have to analyze what does it mean that God has all powers. And then we'll understand what it means that we are in his image. Visit Hashem on Monday. This is a class that will be Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 3:45. Someone told me nobody is going to show up at 3 p.m. Well, Baruch Hashem, we had a couple of people showing up, so thank you for showing up. And also we're on iTorah.com, so I'm sure a lot of people are also there. I know the time is tough, but these days, many people are a little bit more flexible, and why not give a little bit of light in the middle of the day? So, this class will be on Monday at 3 p.m. We have other classes, of course, but in the meantime, this will be it. As I said before, it's going to be 45 minutes. From now on, if you have a question, if you have a comment that you would like to say, then please do. I'm going to give you the possibility of unmuting yourself. And if you want to ask a question, so then you could put on your button to unmute yourself and say something. If not, it's okay. Anyone?
Hazak Baruch Ravino.
Okay, that's a
Rabbi,
great
I sent you a
question.
message, a private message.
You sent me a private message.
Can you see that?
I have to look from Stephen Weiss. If it's private, should
No,
I?
I don't. I didn't mean private.
Okay.
Private.
Okay.
I meant that I didn't want to disturb in the middle. So a clarification.
Thank you. So I'm going to read. I thought that Tselem is not the image, but the chotemet of Hashem. I mean, chotemet, you mean to say humans are made in a mold? The chotemet of Hashem. Can you explain yourself? What exactly you mean by that?
That Tselem Elokim doesn't mean that you have the image of Hashem. Hashem has no image, like you said. What it means is that you are the handiwork of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's like a signaturing. You do a mold. When you make a mold, it's like when you make a child, your child will look either like you or your wife. And that's exactly what it means when it says that Yeh ke'echot kamonu, that Adam can recreate the issue of creation, that has the ability to create a new life, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu created from Yesh Me'ayin.
That's what I said at the beginning. I don't know if you were on at that point, but I said that.
I came 10 minutes, I came 5 minutes late. But I'm saying that Tselem...
Always a troublemaker.
The Tselem doesn't mean an image. Like you correctly said, God has no image.
Correct. The problem is that it's very cute, but that's wrong.
Yeah.
No, the whole Nefesh.
I wouldn't put it that way. I would say maybe it's different. I'm going to recheck.
No, I did mention that at the beginning of the class. The problem is that the word Tselem, I think, first of all, you wouldn't say B'Tselem Elokim. first of all, why Elokim? Why the word Tselem? There could be other words that could be easier than that. And again, he's going to go in the direction of the Zohar, which is going to use the comparative. At Tselem, and the Rishonim mentioned it. The Rambam mentioned the comparison. So it could be a comparison again. The same way God gave life, he gave the humans the ability to give life, right? But there's much deeper than that. So that, it could be that. He said the Pashtanim Arishonim have said that there's a comparison in many aspects, not only that. It could be other aspects of comparison. But it is a comparative term. Here, he's going to go deeper and, more detail. Obviously, it's the whole Shah that discusses this, so it's a very, very elaborated answer. Anyway,
Thank you.
See that, Kobe. No, thank you for your remark always. Thank you. So Kobe has a remark. Want to say? Go ahead, Kobe.
Yeah, I wanted to know what, if at all, Nefesh HaChaim talks. Maybe this is something that's addressed later, but if Nefesh HaChaim addresses the idea of if Tselem is a general idea that's the same for every human being, is it like you mentioned a mold or a chotemet? Is that the same mold every person has, or is it different and catered to each individual?
Oh, so first of all, I thought you were going to go in the direction of is it the same for Jews and non-Jews? We're going to treat that. We're going to treat that. What happened? Is there a difference at one point between the Jews and the non-Jews? Is it the same for everyone? We're going to see that also. The answer may be a little shocking, but it treats that. Obviously, everything starts in the same quote-unquote mold, the same idea. But maybe potential has to do with that. And we'll see. Each one with his mission, each one with his thing. But yes, we will treat this, and that's why it gets very personal and very... this is a book that is life-transforming for life self-esteem. If somebody has a problem with self-esteem, I highly recommend to read this book because, as you're going to see, it's going to describe really the importance of our mission and who we are in this world, and the connection with the Tselem Elokim, actually describing what we are meant to be and what we're meant to do. So yes, that would be. Anyone else?
Rabbi, just a quick question, if I may, please.
Sure.
When Hashem created Adam, there was no difference between Goyim and Yehudim. Yehudim
Right.
did not start till much later. So when it says when we created B'Tselem Elokim, it was talking about Adam. So it has to be obviously all mankind completely.
Absolutely. At the beginning, yes.
Correct.
Maybe a moment. I mean, I'm cheating a little bit, but Nefesh HaChaim is going to talk about the moment that we accepted the Torah in Har Sinai. There may have been a switch done there. In the level of, don't forget that when you talk about Tselem Elokim, you're talking about the godly perspective. That means that for me, the perfect word would be responsibility. When you accept on yourself more restrictions and more responsibilities, at this point, you become more godly than someone who doesn't. Again, I'm cheating a little bit, but this is going to be discussed much later. And when was there a shift? And it doesn't mean that Chas v'Shalom, it doesn't still apply to Goyim. It may mean that, like Kobe asked, is there differences between people? There will be differences between people. Like any two people who one have more potential than the other. If one is stronger than the other, then obviously when you tell the people, can you please bring me the chairs? You can expect the regular guy to bring you one chair at a time, maybe the strong guy to bring you two chairs at a time. So it depends on the ability that is given to each one. At the moment of Har Sinai, there's a moment of transition in the responsibility of people, and that could play a role when we talk about the Tselem Elokim. So we'll get there.
There was there a transition, or there was a mosif, something added to us, and we got something extra?
Not added, actually retracted. More like a retraction or a focus, more focused on, on the people who accept it on themselves. But again, this will be discussed much later. Yes, I heard another voice.
Rabbi, you spoke about creative powers, but also the same would apply to destructive powers as well, correct?
Absolutely. You're right, 100%. I'm talking about positive, it could be negative. Again, this would all be discussed. Always going to be both. There are differences though. Much later, like in Shar, Aleph, Perek, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, the Nefesh HaChaim is going to say, Midat Tova Merubet Midat Puranut. You have much more, for example, the rewards. You're going to see the rewards, which is another fascinating topic that has to do with this. In the rewards world, we see that the mitzvah is going to last forever. However, what we call the punishment, which he was, by the way, Nefesh HaChaim believes there's no punishment, it doesn't exist. The concept punishment is not a Jewish concept. But even Gehinam is not a punishment at all. It's a consequence of a fact. It's a factual thing. But we'll get there. When he talks about that, he says, well, obviously there's a difference between something positive with something negative. That the something positive stays forever and something negative is limited. We know Gehinam, for example, says 12 chodesh, 12 months. After that, that's it. Which means that the existence of the impact of an avera is smaller than the existence of the impact of something positive. And they both come from the same Tzelem Elokim, by the way. Right?
So the degree of strength of positive is greater than the degree of destruction that we have.
Correct. Again, we'll see that later. Yes, Kobe has another question.
Sorry, don't mean to hijack.
Sorry, but if somebody has a question, just type messages, chat, and you send me so I could see you are, and I call you. Yes.
So just quickly, is there any indication that someone's physical attributes are a reflection of their spiritual self, or tzelem, for lack of a better term?
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
So like some people are bald, some people have certain, whatever. Like, is there any, I've heard different things about, physical attributes relating to, I'm asking for a friend, by the way, not for me.
Yeah, but that friend would maybe Ike. Ike, you want to show everyone what you have under the cap? No? Okay. Because I think they were talking about him. It's okay, I'm getting there, don't worry. Nothing, right? Like they say. Anyways, is there a difference? Look, it could be, because anything, I strongly believe anything has an impact on you, anything is going to be adding or subtracting from your ability to do something, from your potential, one way or another. And therefore, if anything would take out from your potential of doing something, that means that the ability of doing, well, it's not right. We're talking about the concept we don't know yet. I mean, we still didn't explain what Tzelem Elokim is. We're already discussing if certain abilities could be taken away from something. So I don't think it's fair to discuss that now. We'll get there. We'll really get there. But yeah. Really, we will discuss everything. It's just, that was just a little introduction. Okay, Kobe?
You want to elaborate on the Naaseh part, or just
That's in 5 months.
slide over that?
No, we'll get there. We'll get there. But the Naaseh has, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Like Perek, hey, we're going to talk about this. Well, you're plural of Naaseh. Who are these people involved with that? Yes. All right. Anybody else? You good? Hey, Jay Gindi, you raised your hand again. No, you don't need to raise your hand.
Yes. Yeah, I had a question.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to ask you a question, just on what you said before, that he believed that there's no such thing as punishment, which means that when we do a negative action, it needs just to be corrected, and that's the reason why there's Gehinam or whatever it might be. No, we're not getting punished for what we did. You did something incorrect.
Perek Yud Gimel. I just threw one thing there. It's complex. We get there.
Okay.
We get there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I have another obligation.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Be well. Thank you for coming. See you on Monday.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Beautiful.
Zako Baruch.
Thank you. My pleasure.